Skin run on empty, now I'm on a roll. Same old road, but it's a different glow. Ain't nothing crazy, just a shift in gears. Funny how it all got clear. Used to think I had to chase the high. Now it finds me every time I try. Didn't see it coming like this. Now I'm right in the middle of it. I ain't saying I got it all, but I ain't missing what I thought. It's getting better than it should be. Little too good for a guy like me. Every door I used to push won't budge. Now they're opening up easy. Yeah, it's better than it used to feel. Like I finally got something real. If this is luck, I won't outrun what's finally right, what I've become. Too good, too right, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. Too good, too good, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. I ain't even gotta try. Used to trip on every little thing, now I let it ride, let it breathe. Got a way of working out somehow, even when I don't figure it out. Got my hands where they need to be on the wheel, not chasing what I don't need. Everything just falls in place when you quit trying to race. I ain't saying it's perfect now, but I wouldn't change it out. It's getting better than it should be. Little too good for a guy like me. Every door I used to push won't budge. Now they're opening up easy. Yeah, it's better than it used to feel. Like I finally got something real. If this is luck, I won't outrun what's finally right, what I've become. Too good, too right, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. Too good, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. Didn't flip a switch, didn't make a scene. Just woke up living in a better dream. Now I don't chase what I can't keep. Got everything that's chasing me. It's getting better than it should be. Little too good for a guy like me. Every door I used to push won't budge. Now they're opening up easy. Yeah, it's better than it used to feel. Like I finally got something real. If this is luck, I won't outrun what's finally right, what I've become. Too good, too right, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. Too good, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Apex News Above the Noise. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm Craig Blanton.
Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We begin tonight with a story that has once again shaken this country to its core, a moment of chaos, fear, and yet another chilling reminder of how combustible America's political climate has become. On Saturday night, what authorities are now formally calling an attempted assassination of President Donald Trump unfolded during the annual White House Correspondents' Center in Washington, D.C., when an armed suspect allegedly attempted to breach security near the ballroom where the president, first lady, vice president, cabinet officials, members of Congress, and hundreds of journalists were gathered. Federal prosecutors say the suspect was heavily armed with a shotgun, a handgun, knives, and tons of ammunition. And during the confrontation, gunfire erupted. One federal officer has been struck in a ballistic vest and is expected to recover. The suspect was taken into custody and is now facing federal charges, including attempted assassination of the president. And what makes this especially jarring is where it happened, one of Washington's most heavily secured political events. This wasn't a campaign rally in an open field. This wasn't an outdoor rope line. This was inside the nation's political and media establishment behind layers of screening, at least two. law enforcement and Secret Service protection. How close to the subject actually get? Where were the warning signs there? All questions that we're going to discuss. But moving on to that, authorities say 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen of California traveled cross country to Washington and allegedly attempted to force his way into the Correspondents' Dinner security perimeter while armed. Investigators say writings recovered afterward indicate President Trump and senior administration officials were likely the intended targets. Secret Service agents moved instantly. Protectees were evacuated. Guests were ordered to the floor, and what could have become one of the darkest nights in modern American political history was stopped in seconds. And so, Craig, I think the real question that a lot of people are discussing at this point is, how did this happen again? Who is at fault for the security issues that are allowing this to happen? And on a broader scale, what are we doing with the political discourse right now in this country, as we are now on the fifth attempt on President Trump's life since 2016? Where do we go from here, Craig?
Well, first off, the White House the ballroom for the Correspondents' Dinner, it was sealed off. It was locked in. So know that right off the bat. Outside of the hotel, you were only required to show a paper ticket. And as some of the reporters said, the outside security just looked at your ticket and that was it. They didn't check you off in a list. They didn't ask for no ID. They just let you in. So that was basically zero security outside, and that was not manned by the Secret Service. Then you get in a hotel like this guy did. He reserved a room 2 days before. He could walk all over the place, and he said that in his 1,052-word manifesto that he was amazed at how little security there was outside or in the hotel. So let's carry that a paranoid step forward. If a Iranian or some other people that hate America wanted to really take out the leadership of the United States of America, which they were like 7 deep on the line of succession, they could have made reservations of 2 months before, planted bombs inside the walls and took the whole thing down and just collapsed the whole building on top of him. So it's a terrible location. The president was secured. Everybody in the room was secured. And there's a video out that I shared that soon as they heard the gunshots, a Secret Service agent jumped up in front of the president till they could get the human body armor around the president. And then another soldier jumped in the way, and where they, pulled Trump off a stage. So the Secret Service did their job. Nobody should blame them. It was the outside part, and I don't know who's in charge of that, whether it's White House Correspondents Association or the president, or there was no threats available, no threats known that would happen during that event. And it's not like it hasn't happened before.
Well,
Reagan.
Yeah, the exact location. Anybody that can remember in 1981 when President Reagan was shot, it was at the same hotel. So this is a historic location for terrible things happening. Once again, President Reagan survived that attempt on his life.
Yes.
Here we are again. I think one of the things that you and I were talking Saturday as this was going on live, but one of the things that was so shocking to me is when you watch the individual break through the security line, there are about 7 or 8 guys just kind of standing around.
Yeah, meandering.
And it made you wonder what in the world was actually happening at that moment for them to be so lax. And had there not been a Butler, Pennsylvania situation, I could understand that maybe it's time to kind of figure these things out. But we've seen this before. And here we are again going, is it intentional now? You have to start wondering that question. Is lack of security an intentional thing that's happening? And then you have to start wondering, are there other things at play? Are there other outside influences, whether it's from other countries or other influences inside the country? You and I obviously are conspiracy theorist kind of guys, and you have to start wondering at this point. I mean, had this just been the first time, but just the three since 2016, but there were two prior to or since 2024, but there were two prior to that in 2016 and on, where President Trump's life was at risk, and so I'm very concerned about um, that question. Did security fail, or did it work exactly the way that it was supposed to? Because they got the guy, but he got pretty deep. I mean, he got behind
Yeah,
that line, and that's the real fear. And luckily, very
he only
luckily,
got about 40 feet past the metal detector.
yeah, absolutely. And in fact, one of the things that I heard, and tell me if you heard this one, I heard one of the eyewitnesses say she witnessed him putting his gun together, and I thought,
No, I've
goodness
not heard
gracious.
that one.
She was in the hotel, and she said she saw that, and I thought, goodness, how are we? Where are we in society that things can happen like that? But then again, are we going to have to start trading off accessibility for safety for a number
No,
of these
no,
individuals? And
no, we're not, because Trump said, let's go right back. Let's do the event. But you got, when you say you're lax, remember Butler, Pennsylvania, you had all kinds of people in the crowd that were pointing to
they were absolutely.
crooks as he was crawling across the roof, because you and I were watching that live too, and you're freaking out. All these people are pointing at him, and where's the police? So it makes you wonder if that was a Secret Service failure or a plot. You don't know. And then this one, like I said, the ballroom itself was secure. He didn't get in there. The Secret Service did their job. They immediately performed a human wall around Trump. Just as soon as it happened, they did. They got the vice president out on the other end. Um, so I don't think it's a Secret Service failure, but next time, if they hold it, they're saying 30 days, but we don't know. It's going to be wall to wall security, because some of the Fox News reporters and CNN reporters were saying it was harder to get into the Academy Awards and Golden Globes than it was to get in here.
Yeah, and the other thing that you have to ask is, and I honestly, I have quite a bit fatigue of both sides. I personally believe that the rhetoric from the left is significantly worse, but I know I have friends on the left who believe exactly opposite. They believe that that this is all because Trump has ramped this up. Are we in an era where uh, escalation and political assassinations are going to become more normal, or are we just seeing transparency and faster reporting of the events in your eyes?
Well, it obviously, with 4 million, I mean, there were 1,000 phones in there, and with reporters being reporters, they ducked under the table for a few seconds, and then they all popped up, and you can see the phones. Everybody's recording the event because that's just their nature. That's what they're taught to do. It's what they always do when they go to front lines on the wars, and they're recording while bullets are whizzing by, and so these people are used to it. If it was a different crowd of non-experienced folks, just regular people in the room, I think it'd been major panic set in. But you've seen the video of that one dude that kept eating his salad
Yeah.
off to the left, and he said, "Well, I'm a New Yorker, so I'm used to gunfire and sirens, so it didn't bother me." And he said, "And I'm not getting my brand new tuxedo down on the ballroom floor because it was too dirty." And he said, "I'd never be able to get back up again."
I was more shocked at some of the reporting that came out immediately afterwards of the questioning of the reaction of Carolyn Levitt and the
The
DHS secretary,
first lady.
first lady, and they were people were saying, well, they were laughing and smiling. That's weird. Listen, trauma is a real thing, and you don't when you get jacked up when it comes to adrenaline and things of that nature. There is a nervousness that comes with that afterwards that does result in laughing and sometimes crying and sometimes all the emotions. And I'm sure that they were very happy to know that they were alive and everyone was
Sure.
going to be okay. But at the same time, we do have great Secret Service and we do have individuals that were protecting them. One of the things that I heard after the event was a lot of the protectors, the people who were on special details, could not locate their protectees during the event. And that concerns me that you have an event where you can have Secret Service agents and special contractors who can't get to their people. And that can't happen when you have the entire cabinet there. I don't know who the lone survivor was. They haven't said who that was. They usually don't. But for those of you who don't know, lone survivor is the one member of the cabinet that is always sequestered away in case something
Especially
terrible
during
happens.
the address to the country, one person is sequestered off.
Right. So I'm sure that there was someone in that role, but goodness gracious, what a crazy night. And uh, you and I were
Oh,
talking last night about the CBS interview that they did with President Trump, and the idea that there's some justification for someone to act the way that they are, we have got to turn the temperature down at
yeah.
this point from both sides. And what I was saying earlier is I'm getting real tired of both sides pointing at each other and saying, it's your fault, it's your fault. Just cool the rhetoric down. I mean,
Both sides cool the rhetoric down.
yeah, both
Exactly.
sides absolutely need to do that. We need to do it because um, we have a generation of kids who are not emotionally stable enough to be able to handle the vitriol of regular life. But then you add politics into it, and then we're seeing something even
Yeah,
scarier.
you're talking the participation trophy generation,
Yeah,
and this guy fits right in
yeah,
because it all started in 2015, so that's 11 years ago. The guy's 30, so he is 19, getting this stuff in school and in the universities, and then he becomes I mean, this guy is smart.
yeah. I mean,
He got into Caltech, and that is as hard to get into Caltech as it is to MIT.
yeah, he's
So
an
this
engineer.
guy, he's probably a near genius.
He's an educated engineer, and the problem with that is he's also a teacher at this point, and
Right.
he won Teacher of the Month
In December.
at the tutoring program that he teaches through. I saw a bunch of interviews from some of his former students. Some of them said he was a bit odd, but they all said he was incredibly intelligent. But I don't know if you looked at any of the pictures of this gentleman, and we're not going to put his picture up here, but he had some dead eyes. You can't see the soul on this guy.
Yeah.
It was he may be incredibly intelligent, but even immediately afterwards, there was a scary look to him. And you and I will talk to Jeff about this when we have him on this week.
Mhm.
But the first thing Jeff said to us in our discussion, and this is a little off topic, but he had that MK Ultra look to him. I mean, he looked totally dead eye at that point.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that was scary to me because, maybe there is influence on some of these people. Maybe there
There's
is.
no doubt. There's no doubt.
And
There's
I
none.
and you add that on top of the uh, rhetoric that is going back and forth between both camps, and it is a powder keg ready to go off. And I don't know what the answer is. I guess my next question to you is: how much responsibility do political leaders and media figures carry for the current climate?
I'd say 100% because before 2015, did Democrats or Republicans ever talk about this about our elected leader? Did they ever call any previous elected leader Hitler?
No.
Constantly. Did they say that he was going to cause World War III? Constantly. This stuff, you see it on the news. You talk about it with your friends. Your teachers teach you and tell you that stuff. We've seen enough video evidence of that. And these young brains are still forming. And if that's all they're hearing, then they hear it from their parents too. The crazy ones like these that have been recently going on attacks across the country besides the president, they all seem to be mentally ill people. And I don't know where it's starting from, but I know I've never seen nothing like this until this in my entire lifetime. I don't know what the 60s were. I was a little kid, but even then, I don't think the country was as divided as in the 1960s as it is today. It's either you are 100% one side or 100% the other. There's very little middle ground.
Well, and obviously the 60, you have President Kennedy dying in 63, and then you have
CIA.
and then you have Martin Luther King Jr. dying and RFK Sr. dying in 68. And you had Malcolm X being assassinated 65. So this is something that in the 60s there were assassinations, obviously, but it seems like we are getting to that point right now. And when those, let me also say, when those assassinations happened, it tore the soul out of the country. I mean, people,
Right.
Schools were closed and people were seen crying, regardless of whether you voted for the man, he was the president. And
Well, do you know, I don't know this. Do you know if both sides were attacking each other?
no, absolutely not.
And then the country pulled together.
Yeah, absolutely. And instead, I turn on TikTok and Facebook today, and I see teachers and other individuals sad that it was a failure at
Yeah.
the assassination.
How many times do you see John Wilkes Booth name come forward? I saw it about 100 times today.
I'm saddened by you can dislike somebody's politics, but you can't, and that's right or left, but you can't call for the unaliving of an individual.
Yeah, you can't say the word, can't say the M word.
Yeah, simply because you disagree with their politics. I'm sorry, if you believe that is right, then you have something you need to look at the mirror and deal with some issues, because that's not normal. It's not normal. It's not normal in Western culture. It's not normal in American society. And if you think that the way that we in America deal with problems is by killing individuals who are in power, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. That's not how we do things. You have a right to vote somebody out of office or vote a party out of office every 2 years or 4 years, depending upon the office. And this idea that you can take these drastic steps, you're the problem. You are 100% the problem if you believe that is the convenient way to end what you don't like in politics. And again, it goes back to that I don't like it, so it has to end kind of attitude.
Right.
I didn't like a lot of politicians that were in office. And you know what? You turn on the news and you find out what's going on, and then you vote 4 years later. You don't take that next step. If you are taking that next step, you need to seek help for a mental issue that you have, not be saddened that somebody wasn't unalive. That's not okay. It's not, you're the problem. You're the problem in this society when that happens. We will say the suspect is facing attempted assassination of a president, federal charges with massive exposures. And then, of course, he also has the transporting a firearm and entering an event illegally. Obviously, they're going to have to prove intent, capability, and an overt act. And he's facing up to the rest of his life in prison. And, Jeanine Pirro has already come out and said there will probably be more charges. I don't know if that means there'll be more charges on this one individual or if there will be more people involved. So I guess my next question is,
well, let me back up to your other question.
Sure.
I saw a quote today when you're asking about the voters and stuff and being informed. If you only vote on headlines, you deserve the fine print.
That's
pretty good, isn't it?
That's a really good one. And I think it's funny because, I was just watching a Man on the Street interview on Saturday afternoon, and they were discussing political quotes about Iran and bombing of Iran, and also discussions about Israel and Gaza. And they were interviewing people in California, and some people don't like this because they think it's a gotcha moment, but they were reading quotes and they were like, that's pretty terrible that somebody would say that, right? And they're like, yeah, Trump has lost his mind. It's terrible. And they were quotes from Barack Obama and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
I've seen those. There's plenty of those videos.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think and then when people would be caught with them, they were like, well, I didn't know anything about that. So, but then they don't want to.
No longer discussed it, are they?
No, and then they want to turn around and walk away from, there had to be
Mhm.
something else there. I don't know much about that, but it's exactly what you thought it was when you thought it was President Trump or Pete Hegseth or JD Vance that said these things. And yes, it is a bit of a gotcha moment because some people just need to be got. Some people need to be
Right.
taught that what they believe is not necessarily the God's honest truth. And now we have this idea where people are talking about, well, it's my truth. My truth is that President Trump is the worst person ever. My gosh, if we start going down that road,
Yeah.
where there is no objective truth, that's a scary proposition to have, and I don't like that at all. Um, I guess my next question to you is, could mental health defenses realistically come into play here? And obviously, I think that is definitely something that can and probably will come into effect. Uh, but I think one of the things that we may see come out is, you know, was someone being influenced, not maybe by some secret MK Ultra or Israel or whoever else. We may have people start to make the defense that, media coverage influenced an individual, right or wrong, and they felt justified in their actions. And at some point, the way that the media is acting, I think that's going to win, at a trial.
And it's not good. It's not the right way to say this, but the media experienced what the public has experienced on numerous occasions, whether it's
Exactly.
a church, a school, a government event. The media experienced it this time. They had the fear. They hit the ground. So they got so maybe that will tone down some of their rhetoric. I know it hasn't toned down Joy Reid's. I've seen a couple of videos of hers today, but I'm hoping that by them experiencing that, it will cut down on the rhetoric from both sides and see that this ain't no joking matter. This stuff's real. And what
No,
they say on TV and what they say online and what they say on X and all the other social media, it carries weight because they've got 2 million followers on one form and 2 million on another. Their words carry weight, and like people enjoy saying, words have meaning. It
the
doesn't matter who says it. Words have meaning.
yeah, this yesterday on the Sunday morning shows, I was actually pleasantly surprised, and you and I talked a little bit about this, but MSNBC, some of their hosts, who
Yep.
were saying that let's quit this narrative that this was fake, or it was a setup, or there was a sick individual who obviously did these things, but it was and it was some of the far left individuals on those Sunday morning shows that who clearly were there, who said I had to text my parents and tell them that I was okay, and
Right.
that's the first time they've potentially ever had to be in that. So I guess my next question to that is, will it change the narrative? I can only hope so. Although I think for the American public, I think there's a numbness at this point to it, and that's even scarier.
Well, there was Dana Bash on CNN does her show on Sunday mornings, and she asked Jamie Raskin some questions about it,
Oh
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
rhetoric that he has spewed forward. And of
Shocked
course,
me she asked the question.
What rhetoric? Well, the follow up, CNN's Dana Bash, got smoked on social media and in the news for even asking the question. She's trying to be nonpartisan. She asked a Democrat, Jamie Raskin, who, he said he has no trouble with Trump, but we know that's 100%
Oh,
lie.
he
He hates Trump.
he does.
But
He called him every.
just by CNN's Dana Bash asking the question, the left went after her hard. If you follow any kind of social media, any news services like we do,
Yeah.
she got just ripped by the left for even asking that simple question.
It's a ridiculous proposition. And at the end of the day, regardless of politics, this is one of those moments where the country has to decide what it's willing to tolerate and what it's
Yeah.
not. And I don't. I'm praying for the one answer. I'm unfortunately feeling like it's going to go the other. Once political violence becomes routine, it simply doesn't stay contained. It goes from both sides, and we obviously don't want that. One of the immediate questions after Saturday night's assassination attempt is whether America's political rhetoric has become dangerously reckless and whether public figures, entertainers, and media personalities have a responsibility to understand the weight of their words. And that brings us directly to our next story, because today one of the biggest names in late night television is facing intense blowback after a joke many are calling tasteless, cruel, and in light of what happened Saturday, deeply disturbing. We'll play that right now.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant.
And for people who don't know, that joke was played just the night before Friday night, so just hours before this happened. Obviously, Jimmy Kimmel he's been under fire before. He's not new to controversy, and I can't imagine, Craig. I can't imagine Johnny Carson making that joke.
Well, remember back when he went in blackface with Carl Malone, as Carl Malone all the time on the, what was it, the Manly Man Show or something like that?
It was the Man Show.
The Man Show, and then
Corolla.
him doing vile things to women behind their back where they can't see it, and Adam Carolla's kind of egging him on. And of course, they've split, they've diverged now. I don't even think they talk to each other anymore.
They don't. Yeah, they don't.
But
Adam is
it was okay back then, but now if they see anybody, they freak out. But you don't go back to where Jimmy Kimmel was. And then for him to do that, I mean, what could be worse to say to a wife after her husband has had 2 other attempts just this term?
Yeah.
The butler, when they nicked his ear, and then the guy with the rifle on the golf course that the president was 1 hole away, about 400 yards away, and that Secret Service agent engaged with him.
And he's going to serve a life sentence now. I can't imagine the appeal of being so dark. I mean,
yeah,
I like dark humor, but that's cruel dark humor, and I can't imagine the idea that Jimmy Kimmel thought that was good. But and the thing that shocks me even more than him saying it, it's the dozens of people in the crowd who are laughing at it.
How did that not make national news the moment he put it out there?
Well, I mean, open up TikTok and Twitter, and all you see is people, agreeing and
Right.
things of that nature. Today, Melania Trump issued one of her sharpest public statements in years, calling Kimmel's comments hateful and violent rhetoric, saying his words are corrosive and deepen the political sickness in America. She then directly called on ABC to act, saying, "Enough is enough. It is time for ABC to take a stand." That's from the Washington Examiner. President Trump followed his own statement, saying Kimmel should be immediately fired by ABC and the parent company, Walt Disney Company, arguing the joke crossed a moral line, particularly given that just days later, a real attempt was allegedly made on his life. And that's where this story gets a bit bigger than comedy, because now the country's debating whether this was protected satire, ugly rhetoric, and something that reflects a broader cultural problem where public cruelty has become entertainment. I am just mortified at the idea that we would laugh about the potential demise of any person, especially someone who is leading the country. I can't imagine Greg Gutfeld making the joke that he wants President Biden to be assassinated.
Yeah.
Now, he makes all sorts of jokes that President Biden is old, or that he wears a diaper, or all these other things. But we just don't say those things. And the difference is that it's so blatant in the way that it comes across. It's so blatant with the idea that Trump needs to be unalived by these people, and that's funny. I mean, it's not even like a political discussion. They're doing it as humor. Craig, your thoughts?
Well, I told you I watched Kimmel for the first time in probably 10 years the other night, and the first 7 jokes he was going after Trump. Barely, there was some laughter, but not much. I don't know how much they piped in, but they've quit being funny 10 years ago. I mean, they're just attack machines for the left. Doesn't do America any good, and that's why their ratings are Stephen Colbert's ending in May, I think, or September, and the other 2 are on the verge of being canceled. So they do no good. They promote nothing. They're not a Johnny Carson. They're not a Jay Leno. They're not a David Letterman. They're not funny at all.
Well,
They've gone the other way.
they've killed late night, and
Right.
political comedy has always pushed boundaries. All right, Johnny Carson, Jon Stewart, but critics argue that a line between sharp satire and language that casually invokes death against political opponents
Right.
is not okay.
Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin.
It ruined her.
Supporters of Kimmel say comedy is supposed to provoke, mock power, and be uncomfortable. Critics say joking about a president's wife becoming a widow, especially days before an actual assassination tip, stops being comedy and starts becoming a cultural poison. Tonight, the larger question hanging over all of it, has American political discourse become so toxic that even assassination imagery is now punchline material?
It's un-American. It's anti-American. You can hate the president all you want, but to wish him to be ended that's un-American. And then when our representatives go overseas and they bash the president to crowds of Europeans,
Yeah,
you've never seen that before either. It's so un-American that I can't believe these people do it, but they will do anything to get power. It doesn't matter what it is. All they want is power. I don't think either side really wants to benefit America anymore. It's just the power.
I think the crazy thing is that if you said this at your job, or if you said it even in mixed company, you would be fired, and you would probably
Instantly.
those people wouldn't talk to you ever again. But now you turn on your television, on cable television. This is not HBO late at night television.
Right.
This is cable television at 11:30 at night, and this is the norm. It's not even out. It doesn't even raise eyebrows anymore. People are just so used to it. And I think when you do that, you diminish the life of people who you were talking to and talking about. And then if you've diminished their life, then what does somebody care if they come and end that life? I mean, it's just not that big of a deal to them. And so there's so many other things you can be funny about. There are just so many other things going on in this world that you can be funny about. And you don't have to joke about the demise of a president or any political figure. There are, I mean, some of the crudest comedians out there wouldn't even go this far. And I don't know why that it has to be this way, because, Kimmel will eventually lose his job. Maybe not for this particular issue, but his ratings are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. And they've already, essentially ended the Late Show. I mean, not just with Stephen Colbert, but he killed the entire show. His ratings were so bad.
Right, yeah.
And you have essentially the Gutfeld show, and it's 10 times the ratings of each of these individually. So I don't know. I don't know where we go with that, but
when Swalwell, though, think about it. When Swalwell, all that information came out, supported not by the women, they can always say they were plants or something, but by his fellow House members, U.S. House members. Did you see any of the late night guys or Saturday Night Live cracking jokes on it? Not a single one. They didn't even mention him. And so, that shows that the divide that we talked about earlier is it's getting the gap is getting wider and wider, and something's got to change. Hopefully in my lifetime anyway.
Yeah, it is incredibly unfortunate that we have gotten to that point. And every time we start, the world starts shaking geopolitically, Americans eventually feel it where it hurts most, and that is in our wallets. That's exactly what we're dealing with today, right now, at the gas pump, the grocery store, and even inside your 401k. Global instability has a way of hitting Main Street fast, and right now Americans are once again watching oil climb, gas prices rise, and wondering what's next for the economy. Tonight, crude oil is once again surging higher as renewed tension surrounding Iran and continued instability in the Strait of Hormuz are rattling global energy markets. Brent crude has climbed to roughly 108 to 110. Just about an hour ago, it was at 108.1, which was up.
That's the oil the world buys.
It is. while U.S. crude has pushed back towards triple digits in a sharp rebound from the brief cooling we saw earlier in the month. Analysts say the market is pricing in one simple fear: supply distribution. We talked about that last week, Craig, with the jet fuel and other aspects.
Mhm.
Reuters is reporting that when oil moves, gas follows. National gas prices have been hovering around the $4 per gallon mark, with regional spikes above that in some states. Kentucky has historically run a little below the national average, but drivers here are still feeling the sticker shock. And Craig, you mentioned today you were on the west side of town here in central Kentucky, and you saw a 50-cent difference from one side
You
of the
got
state
those
to the other.
pictures? Did
I,
you
I can bring it up here in a
see if you can
short.
pull them up? Yeah. Yeah. Just you could lay a blanket down within 100 yards of each other. You had one gas station at 419, another at 363, I think, and another one 366. And what shocked the crap out of me was there were people in the $4.19 gas station when 100 yards up the road or up the road or just across the street, they could have saved over 50 cents a gallon. So I don't know how I mean, it's capitalism. It's their store. They can do whatever they want. I understand that. But it doesn't make sense when oil moves up just $1 or $2 a barrel. Gasoline jumps up 30, it used to jump up 30 cents. Now we're seeing 50-cent jumps. And I can't understand logically how that does that, because that drives the cost of everything, because there's no product we buy isn't moved by diesel and gasoline. I mean, it might be rail to some point, but from the rail yard to the store, it's going to be a semi which runs on diesel. And the same thing with vehicles. When you're doing your deliveries, the gasoline-powered vehicles, all that's going to drive the cost of everything up, and it'll never go down.
Yeah, and one of the things that it shocks me so bad when you see this is, that first one that you just sent was 363, and right across the street is 419.
Yeah, that just most or all of Kentucky's gas comes out of the Marathon facility in Louisville. So I just, it blows me away, this price difference. And
Well,
but again, go
I
ahead.
also think this is where we need Russ Coleman, Attorney General Russ Coleman.
No doubt.
This is blatant gouging. If one side of the street is almost 60 cents more than the other side of the street, then what's happening? What are you doing? Right? That's not supply demand.
Yeah.
It's the same gas, right? So
gasoline's a commodity.
it
Where
is.
your T-shirt or your blue jeans you buy at Walmart, that's not a commodity.
Yeah.
You can do without that. You cannot do without gasoline.
I think one of the things that is so shocking about this is that the energy sector is also reaching the greatest profits that they've had ever in the history of ever right now.
Yeah.
And that is what is so shocking about this. It would be one thing if oil and energy sectors were losing money, but they have the highest profits that they've ever had at this point. And of course, one of the things that is concerning is higher diesel costs. And you saw the diesel costs, what they were there as well. But higher diesel costs means more expensive freight shipping, higher grocery costs, rising airline tickets, more pressure on manufacturers, and inflation staying hotter than the Federal Reserve really wants. And one of the things that right now, I know people who are watching the economy they know that there will be a new Fed chair that comes in May, and everybody's wanting a 0.5 to a full percent interest rate drop. The way that these energy prices right now is that they can't keep up with inflation at this point.
The mortgage markets dropped for the third month in a row. Side conversation on that.
Oh,
but fuel. I mean, you don't need to list a commodity or a product. Just say everything. I mean, literally everything starts with gasoline and diesel, not beside the products they get from it, just to move it around the country. And if they don't, I don't know if it's the oil companies. I don't know if it's the stores on the retail side, but if restaurants or Walmart, Lowe's, hotels jack their rates up like that, they'd be out of business in a heartbeat because nobody know what the price of anything is.
Yeah. I I I think one of the other things is confusing and a little hard to understand is that Wall Street is actually still showing resilience, especially in tech where AI-driven stocks continue
Yeah,
powering markets higher. But underneath that strength is real anxiety over inflation. Right now, Craig, we are teetering on the highest that any of these markets have ever been. The Nasdaq and the S&P are already there, but
they're already all-time highs. Yeah.
the Dow is about to hit an all-time high. So how do you balance that with, folks who have, stock and 401ks? That the stock market actually controls more than you think. You don't have to be rich for the stock market to affect.
Where's John Hibbard when we need him to pop
Yeah,
in?
yeah, right. Might need to have him call in. But the other thing that is interesting here is while that's while that's going on, the cost of daily life is simply going higher and higher. And I don't know what the balance is there. In your business, Craig, have you continued to see prices rise as somebody who's buying, food?
Absolutely. I track every day, and I check the prices every week, but I track the items we order the most daily, and they have definitely gone up in the last month. But we're just going to eat it, like most small business owners. They just eat the increase in price because you can't afford to go any higher because you'll lose customers. In our world, we lose them to Papa John's and Domino's because they sell $5 pizzas. And in the retail world, they'll just, instead of going to your storefront downtown Frankfurt, they'll just order it online.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know the answer for folks who are middle to low income at this point, though, right now, because basic commodities are still going up. And again, while it's great to see that the stock market and things and inflation has been held back a
Yeah.
little bit, uh, prices are still going up. I mean, great, eggs are lower, bread's a little lower. But if it's costing you, double or close to double around the country to get where you needed to go with gas, I don't know if that's something that we should really be excited
Yeah.
about.
California gas is, right at $5.89 a gallon.
Yeah.
And they're getting ready to shut the Valero refinery. They've already shut one refinery down, and they're going to shut Valero down, I think, in the fall. And they're expecting another $1 to $2 a gallon jump, irrelevant to what anything else is going on in the world.
Yeah.
Because people don't really know this until, we researched and talk about it. California gets most of their gasoline from Southeast Asia, not the United States. There's no pipelines running to California. All the oil that those refineries, the few they got left, they come in by ship.
They do.
I didn't know this. I didn't know that California was buying their their gasoline from overseas, and that's why it costs so much.
Well, and there's the disconnect because if you own stocks, part of the market looks healthy. If you're filling up a truck, paying utility bills, or buying groceries, the economy feels a lot tougher than the headline suggests. And the wild card, Craig, remains the Middle East. The Middle East has been a little, I hate to say this, but it's been a little quiet the last 3 or 4 days.
There's a reason.
And there's obviously a reason for that. If shipping lanes can stabilize, prices could ease. If tensions escalate, or a tanker traffic tightens further, or heaven forbid, a military vessel is hit, then all of a sudden you're not looking at $5 gas.
Right. Yeah.
You're looking at $6 gas. And
Yeah,
and
you're
I
looking
think,
at like $9 or $10 gas.
yeah, and that's the other thing I'll say about that is, and
All right, because you brought up a good point I want to address.
yeah, but there is perspective that we have to take in that the United States, we get upset when it goes over $3 a gallon of gas. If you're in England right now, you're at $10 a pound for petrol, and that's typical. I mean, if you're in Germany, if you're in these places,
But
so
now a lot of it's high gasoline taxes they put on it too.
it is
Ridiculously high taxes.
yeah, but it is what it is. But at the end of the day, we are blessed in the sense that we don't have that. You had one other thing.
Something to keep an eye on is Carg Island. Sounds like Klingon Island from Star Trek's Karg Island. It's within 10 days of being completely full because we've got the blockade around Karg Island, which 90% of Iran's pumped oil goes through to get on the tankers. It's approximately about 10 days away from being completely full capacity. Then what do? You can't just let it run on the ground. What'll have to happen is they'll have to shut the oil wells down. Now, when you shut the oil wells down anywhere on the planet, once an oil well is flowing, when you shut it down, it really screws everything up, and it's almost impossible to get it rolling again.
Yeah.
To get it pumping the oil out of the ground again. So that's why Trump, even before the White House correspondence dinner and all that stuff, he hadn't really said nothing about it. He's not been coming off with the threats to Iran or anything like that. He's just letting the capacity build in Iran till they've got to shut their stuff off. We're already costing them $450 million a day in lost oil sales. But once they get full capacity, then it's economic collapse because they'll have to shut them down. They're even bringing a mothballed oil tanker, one of the larger ones.
Just to hold them.
Just to pump it because Karg is getting full. Karg Island is getting full. They're going to start putting in that tanker. But the blockade, that's already inside the blockade. No others will be allowed in there just to store the oil. So we might just be days away from the end of this war because of the oil capacity, and Trump's just art of the deal, just sitting back and letting them fill up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty smart economic move if that's truly what the newspaper, and of course, I've read beyond the headlines and watched several videos on it. It's pretty interesting, the position that Iran's in because of their oil capacity.
Well, we're going to have to keep an eye on that at this point. And I don't know what will happen. You have a desperate regime making desperate moves at this point, which is kind of scary. That's probably the scariest thing about all of this. I heard the German chancellor late this afternoon, we'll just end on this topic real quick, say that the U.S. is being embarrassed by Iran. That is probably the most tone-deaf, ignorant comment I've ever heard.
Yep.
I mean, they had 130 naval ships before this started. They have zero.
We're on the bottom of the
and
Arabian Sea and the Red Sea and everywhere else, but
they have no leadership still alive.
And they're a left-wing government, far left-wing government, and that's why the AfD, the right-wing part of the government, is gained so many seats in this year's election.
Yeah. Well, that is obviously something that is heating up. We're gonna have to keep an eye on it. But right now, Craig,
let's go to some good stuff.
Let's go to some good stuff right now. And the best stuff to always talk about is UK sports. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
We come on here and we have sometimes we have stories that are ready to go and everything's happening. And then as we're going on the air, we get text messages and messages across our phones. We have breaking news, Craig. Breaking news right now. Jerome Morton, the Kentucky native, went to GRC. He is at Washington State. He is a combo guard for them. Jerome Morton is coming to the University of Kentucky. One more guard for the University of Kentucky. Something to look forward to. It sounds like we're going to have enough guys to handle the ball. If they have anybody to pass the ball to, obviously, that's
right.
But right now, we got a guy who can shoot 40% from all over the court and 48% from the twos. So, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about this. He took a little bit lesser role last year with only 7.8. He's coming back home. He's going to be a senior. Looking forward to see what this means for the rest of the University of Kentucky and how things go at this point. Your thoughts on Jerome coming home?
Well, he's two things that I like watching is turnovers and free throw percentage, because free throws win games. He's got a low turnover percentage for minutes that he's got the ball in his hands. That's a nerd thing. They track how many seconds each possession he's got it in versus turnovers. So he's got good handles on him. And getting another 6'4" guard to go with the other two we got. I think we're going to be good there. But yeah, you're right. Is he going to have anybody to pass to?
Yeah. Well, the
He'll
last
have Cam Williams. He'll have Cam Williams.
Yeah, he'll have Cam Williams, and he also has another big target now. Over the last 72 hours, there's been some good things, some bad things, and we're still waiting on some other questions to be answered. But the good news, over the weekend, UK had Usman Njai commit to Kentucky, and this is a fascinating pickup for Mark Pope. He's a 6'11" Senegalese big man with pro experience in Italy. He averaged 10 points and nearly 7 boards. And most importantly, he can move, defend in space, and stretch the floor. And that's the technical way of putting it, Craig. But I'll tell you what I love about this guy. I think he's going to be a unicorn, to be quite honest with you, because everybody's like, who's this guy?
He'll be the surprise.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden you started seeing this stuff. Craig, the one thing I love about this guy, he goes and dunks the basketball. When he's driving to the basket, he ain't laying it up like these guys over the last couple of years that you get so mad when that happens. He will dunk the ball, and he has some exciting dunks online, and we'll show some.
And he's quick. He's quick.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to shoot. I mean, he'll just dribble and he'll just pull up and shoot a 3-pointer.
Yep.
And like we discussed earlier today, maybe these are just the only 5 or 6 that he's hit all year.
Yeah, maybe.
But, he's got a smooth shot.
Yeah.
And he's so quick for his size.
Yeah. So here's the positives. Let me tell you what the positives are. First, he's got an NBA body. He's exactly the kind of skilled international player that Pope wanted to get and wanted to develop. He has a very high ceiling and low ego, according to most who have been close to the camp. And he fits Coach Pope's spacing system beautifully because he can start out wide and drive.
Mm-hmm.
There is a skeptical camp here, Craig, and the first is, will he clear NCAA eligibility? We lived through the Enes Kanter days when, can you imagine if he had been on that team as well?
Well, it's been championship team.
Yeah. Is he polished enough offensively? I think there's some people who question that. And the big one, can he bang inside with SEC grown men every single night during a season? My read in particular is that it was probably a really good pickup. It's not a splashy headline. Weren't even really expecting it. But if he can clear eligibility, which at this point, who knows what eligibility means in the NCAA?
Right.
But if he can clear eligibility,
it shouldn't even be a problem.
It shouldn't. But if he can clear eligibility, it's a winning basketball piece.
Yeah. And there's less and less 25-year-olds in college basketball now.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just aging out. So that hopefully he's not going up against a 25-year-old man. He's still going up against a young man that's playing college basketball. So where they played on 7 teams over 6 years and all that stuff. So I think the videos I watched of him Saturday and Sunday, I think he's going to be the surprise player on the team. I could be completely wrong, but this guy's got speed for size. Like you said, he dunks like a man.
He does, and that's the exciting part. But then we get to the bad news over the weekend, Craig, and this one, man,
this is funny. This is getting to be a pattern.
Yeah, this is really starting to get to be a pattern. The bad news in BBN's mouth right now is Kentucky pushed hard for Mika Murinen, and there was real hope late that Pope would pull this off. I don't know why any of us would have that hope anymore. I really don't.
I didn't.
Yeah, but he chose Arkansas with John Calipari, and that is another miss. And what makes it sting is he's a stretch 4-5 type, elite European skill package. They called him Slim Jesus, if you will.
He named himself Slim Jesus.
Either way, could have been a signature front court recruit. Losing him to Calipari twist that knife just a little bit more. It seems like it hurt every time you get hurt by, say, Donnie Freeman going to St. John's. Then all of a sudden you have Calipari come in and steal a guy. I mean, the only thing that could make this worse is if Billy Clyde came in and stole the next recruit and just sign me up for a straitjacket at that point.
Yeah, this when Patino did it, I know he had to. I think he probably laughed about it getting Donnie Freeman.
Oh, 100%.
And then Cal coming in late.
Yeah.
And getting Slim Jesus. I
Yeah.
mean, he came in really late, and UK's been on him since they offered him in 2024, and he was probably on him the first day Pope came into UK, and we had so much built into him, so much effort and time built in, and Calipari sweeps in and grabs him. So what does that tell you, Kyle? Is it the program or is it the coach?
Well, and the chatter among everyone on social media over the last 72 hours has been maybe Mark Pope can coach. Maybe he can, but he cannot get elite talent
Yeah.
to commit. And that's the problem. You have to have both angles ready to go. And then you have the monster domino that we're all waiting on, and that is Tyron Stokes. He is the #1 player in America. He is a Louisville native, built like an NBA wing forward, 6'7", 230 pounds with point forward skills, elite vision, rebounding, and grown man strength. He's the kind of recruit who changes everything: roster construction, NIL strategy, national perception, recruiting momentum. But here's where Kentucky stands. We don't know. We don't know. We're still very much alive, but there's not really a clean leader, a clear leader. Kansas obviously is the one that everyone says is the biggest competition. Oregon is out there because the NIL wild card with regards
Nike money.
to Nike money. And then you have Kentucky, who has this relationship play and this NIL deal as well. That's kind of the mixing of the two. And at this point, I just talked to one of my contacts and asked, what's the deal with Stokes? Because as of late last night, I don't think it was Goodman, but somebody posted that they believed that Stokes would make a commitment today, and
Right.
then he said, "No, I'm not going to make a commitment today because somebody leaked that I was going to make a commitment today." At this, and my contact essentially said, "I don't know and I don't care anymore." We're
A lot of fans on the UK pages they're burnt out on Stokes. I mean, and even we talked earlier about the Instagram post that he made last night with two of his friends.
Three of his friends. Wasn't it three of us? Weren't there four of them? Either way,
There might have been four, yeah, three or four.
There's a bunch
But,
of guys on a
yeah, they were joking about Pope hiring his secretary,
yeah.
and different people like that. His aunt and his uncle to go to UK, and then he brought up Tyron Stokes brought up Crawford,
Yeah.
being hired, and the other two guys didn't know that, so they were just just talking. They were just being young men.
Yeah. The real
But when he brought up Stokes,
yeah.
I mean, when he brought up Crawford, they were kind of shocked, and it appeared to me, and I know you took a different take. It appeared to me that his buddies were making fun of Pope.
Well,
conversation.
and that may be true, but I mean, this is just the way things go. You hire their high school coach, you hire their uncle, you hire whoever you need to hire to put their people around them. I don't like it. I honestly don't like the idea that you'd bring a kid in that would be so ball dominant, and he would essentially be the guy who handles the ball every single time. It's not real team basketball. Kansas had a guy like that. He played about 12 games this year. And I can't imagine that Big Blue Nation's going to be happy with that either. I mean, I don't think it will be.
I personally, I don't want the drama of Tyron Stokes, because all it's going to be all year long is, where will he be the #1 pick? Will he be the #2 pick? Yeah. And he's gonna use this, because he said, "I'm only staying 8 years and then I'm going to the NBA." He said that himself. I've seen that Instagram too. So no loyalty to the team. It's going to be, I've got to up my draft stock to get to the NBA so that I can be.
But do you have to up your draft stock if you're going to make $8 to $10 million a year sitting on a bench? I mean, the thing that the thing I worry about the most is this guy goes and he works out, every single week and does all these things, and then he sits on the bench because he's like, "Nah, coach, I'm shutting it down because I'm getting ready for the NBA." This is a stacked NBA draft. I'll wait a year, sitting in college, make my 8 to 10, but I ain't gonna get hurt for no Kentucky.
Right. And
I ain't gonna do that.
I've seen it numerous things, but not from an AP type news service or an ESPN, that he quit his high school team. That's where I thought you was going. When his coach put him on the bench for mouthing, and then didn't start him the next game. He never played another game for that high school, and another team removed him for disharmony, or I don't know what you call it inside the locker room. But I don't know if those are true, but I've seen them so many times from reputable sources that might be true. And we don't need that at UK. Pope darn sure don't need it in this year of
Not
heat.
this year.
that
No.
he's under. Yeah.
He needs guys who are bought into, winning as a team.
Winning. Yeah.
And again, Peterson for Kansas, still believes he's going to be a, top 3 lottery pick, and he sat out with mystery illnesses. He only played 12 games and, hamstrung that entire team. If we pay $10 million or $8 million and Nike throws in 2, and this kid goes, "Nah, I'm good,"
There's nothing you can do.
There will be a mutiny. There's nothing you can do. It's a contractual obligation.
Yeah, Pope will be done then for sure.
Oh yeah,
if that happened. If we get another JQ where he plays 20 minutes and gets paid $2 million, and granted he's injured, no doubt about it.
I agree.
But the fan base they will absolutely not go for it this time.
Yeah. Well, let's move to the women's side of the ball because Kenny Brooks is not playing around. And
yeah, this is great news
here with Kentucky women's basketball. The Wildcats have added another major transfer portal. Mayara O'Neal, a 6'4" forward from Florida, and that name probably sounds familiar because she is the daughter of NBA Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal. O'Neal announced her commitment to Kentucky Monday, choosing the Cats over finalists including Virginia, North Carolina, and USC. And this is not just a famous last name. O'Neal was a 2024 McDonald's All-American.
Yeah, she's good.
Oh, she's real good. Started all 33 games for Florida last season. And she obviously has some improving to do, but she shoots nearly 53% from the field and better than, get this, 38% from the 3 as a 6'4". She's not just a post player. She can stretch the floor. And that's exactly what matters to Kentucky after they have to reload the front court after Amelia Hazlett and Tiani Key exhausted their eligibility and were selected in the WNBA draft. O'Neal gives Brooks a proven SEC player who can score inside, rebound, protect the rim, and also pull defenders away from the basket. She now joins a transfer class that already includes Ayanna Patterson from UConn and Diana Collins from Alabama. Patterson is a former 5-star recruit who is ranked number 4 overall in her recruiting class, while Collins gives Kentucky another guard option after coming over from an SEC rival. And Patterson is the UConn piece people are talking about. Patterson's raw numbers at UConn were not elite. They were modest. WKYT cited her at 1.7 points per game last season. But the upside is the story. She's 6'2", long, athletic, and was buried in one of the deepest rosters in the country. CT Insider also notes UConn lost Patterson to Kentucky during this portal cycle, while the Huskies chose not to add portal players themselves. So this one really hurts. The play here is key, and it's clear that Kenny Brooks is betting on pedigree, length, and untapped upside. Then you add O'Neal next to Clara Strack, who is returning while averaging 16.9 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game. And that gives Kentucky a front court with, legitimate SEC size. Strack at 6'5", O'Neal at 6'4", and Patterson at 6'2". Good grief. That's a serious SEC front line. And it's a sign of what Kenny Brooks has been wanting this program to do. Kentucky's not just trying to be cute in the portal. They are building an SEC caliber roster with size and athleticism to challenge teams like South Carolina. The big question now is how quickly all these pieces fit together. O'Neal is probably the immediate impact transfer. Patterson is the high upside swing, and Collins gives guard depth, and Strack is obviously the anchor. But make no mistake, after last year's Sweet 16 run, this is the kind of season that says Kentucky's women's basketball is trying to become a real national factor. And the big question, I believe, and this is good news for the folks at the University of Kentucky, are we going to see the big Aristotle on campus? Is Shaq going to show up?
Yeah. Well, and just remember back, we almost lost Kenny Brooks to Virginia.
We did.
I thought he was gone, actually, but now with Shaq talking about his daughter at Florida, on his NBA stuff and his podcast and all that stuff, this will bring more national notoriety to UK women's basketball than anything you could hope for. And then if Shaq shows up on campus,
Yeah.
was walking around campus or going to lunch with his daughter, I mean, man, you talk about making big news in Kentucky. Big is the key word because he's so big.
Yeah, and
That would be pretty awesome.
well, and
It is awesome.
it is awesome. Yeah, it's not pretty. And I will say, while things are kind of in flux right now with the men's program, it's great to have Charles Barkley, who has always been a Kentucky fan, and even though he went to Auburn, and Shaquille O'Neal now, even though he's an LSU guy, it's good to have this SEC and NCAA pedigree guys, guys who are on the NBA on TNT every single night. You see them all the time in the playoffs. This is great for marketing for the University of Kentucky.
Oh,
I don't care that it's just at the women's program right here. This is great for UK marketing, and the kids in the UK marketing department and those in charge over there, they have got to be thrilled right now with what this could mean for the entire university. So Craig, anything else you want to talk about tonight before we hop off here?
No, we got a text from Jeff, but it ain't pertaining to this.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's just the women's basketball is getting more exciting every year with Coach Brooks' football team. I cannot wait to football season. I want to see this thing go crazy. I wish the men's basketball we could have some exciting athletics for eight or 9 months a year.
And we may have that anyway. I mean, it's not like we have a terrible lineup right now. It's not full, and there's a bunch of guys who just jumped in the portal at the end of last week when it closed up. So there's still other talent out there, and I always say that. Look at Michigan's team; those guys were not all Americans when they came. I mean, they were.
Pope meeting with somebody today.
Yeah, there's all sorts of guys that Pope is meeting with right now. But it sounds like Justin McBride once Njai signed that McBride is gone, and so you're just kind of waiting to see what the next shoe is to drop. So
you can't keep waiting on these guys to make a decision, and they're waiting on more money, but in the end, teams are going to get full, and the money's going to dry up.
Well, and they keep waiting and waiting, and even with Stokes, you can't wait forever. So
what if Kentucky says we're done, and Kansas says we're done?
Yeah. I
mean, Oregon's just a distraction, I think, in reality.
Yeah, I think it's just an opportunity to get a little bit more money out of either one of these programs. But at this point, what do you do? Well, that's where we are going to leave it tonight. From big news out of Washington to the economy, and then obviously to UK sports. There is no shortage of stories shaping the days ahead. If you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so that you can never miss an episode of Apex News Above the Noise. I am joined every weekday with my friend Craig Blanton. Craig, a lot of stuff going on. One of the things I will add, all of those folks who have added us as subscribers over the last 4 weeks. I mean, you guys are amazing. This show has just taken off. Our channel has almost 100,000 views in just 5 weeks. That's silly numbers. And we're closing in on 900 subscribers, and we'll hit that 1,000 mark next week as well. So maybe this week, we'll see. But we appreciate you guys for joining us. You can catch us every single night right here with me and Craig, and from all of us here at Apex News Above the Noise. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we will catch you guys tomorrow night. See you. Thanks for seeing us. Bye.